Donald Trump has ordered meatpacking plants to remain open, declaring them critical infrastructure. Now, the White House has decided to make this move amid estimates that as much as 80% of U.S. meat production capacity could shut down. Now, workers at these meat processing plants have been getting sick with coronavirus. And so a lot of these companies have decided, and when I say a lot of these companies, I mean a few of them, because only a few of them control the vast majority of meat Americans consume. They've decided to shut down, close shop because of how rapidly this virus has been spreading amongst their workers. So meat processing plants around the United States have shut down because of the coronavirus. But Trump said in the order, the executive order, that such closures threatened the continued functioning of the national meat and poultry supply chain, undermining critical infrastructure during a national emergency. Using the Defense Production Act, Trump is ordering plants to stay open as part of the critical infrastructure needed to keep people fed amid growing supply disruptions from the coronavirus outbreak. The government will provide additional protective gear for employees as well as guidance. So at least 20 workers in the meat and food processing business have died, and 5,000 meatpacking workers have either tested positive for the virus or were forced to self-quarantine. And that's according to the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. So, John, what are your thoughts on this executive order? Because there are a lot of different elements to this story that I think are worth mentioning, something that you actually referenced earlier about how the Trump administration is trying to do away with any type of workplace liability so the employers don't have to pay the consequences for forcing their employees to work in unsafe conditions.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk for a long time about this, but there are concerns about the safety for the employees, and then there's also concerns about the safety of the people who are going to consume what is created in these. We already going into this pandemic had the Trump administration doing literally anything these meatpacking companies asked them to do in terms of raising the line speed so that they could slaughter more animals every second. Massively cutting down the number of inspectors to save money, again, and to stop slowdowns and things like that. And so actual oversight of what's going out, whether it could be contaminated, is at an all-time low, which is great during a pandemic. And then you also have the workers. And we've already seen that in some areas, the spread of coronavirus that they have is almost entirely due to it spreading inside of these meatpacking plants and then radiating outward. There are some areas where as many as 90% of the cases were traced back to meatpacking plants. They say there that they're going to provide additional protective equipment. We'll see. He's been really hesitant to do that in any case. They also provided no additional requirements in terms of safety for the companies to have to abide by. And at the same time, Trump said he's going to work to protect these companies from liability if their employees get sick or die. At the same time, Republican governors are saying that if you are called back to work in a case like this and you decline to, perhaps because you're terrified about what it could mean for the health of yourself and your family, they're going to consider you to have quit, so you will not be eligible for unemployment. And so they're creating a toxic stew, basically, of worst case scenario for the spread of the disease, both inside of the facility and potentially radiating out across the country, because as you said, they produce so much meat and they transfer it all over the place. But also people are going to be forced to go because of the fear that they could not only lose their job if they don't, but lose access to unemployment as well.
Yeah, I think this pandemic has also just highlighted all of the different issues that we have with our supply chain. So, for instance, we heavily rely on other countries to manufacture the medical supplies that our doctors and nurses rely on. And when that supply chain gets disrupted, well, we're stuck in an incredibly vulnerable situation, which we've been experiencing for months now. When it comes to our meat, it's a problem that there are a handful of corporations, essentially, that produce the vast majority of meat that Americans consume. So we don't have as many, small farms where maybe social distancing can actually be implemented in a way where the workers are safe, right? We just don't have a system like that because we've allowed, meat processing companies to essentially create these monopolies. So all of these problems, like whether it's healthcare and how devastating our healthcare system is when we're dealing with a pandemic, how devastating pay is, and how, incredibly vulnerable Americans already were before this pandemic hit, economically vulnerable. All of these things are being highlighted. The question is, who can we turn to really provide leadership in reforming these components of our society? And that's where I get stuck, right? That's where I get worried, because we don't have any politicians at this point, with the exception of a few progressives in Congress who are fighting to change the system in a way that would actually protect us in the future. So that's what I worry about, because it's one thing for people to finally realize, oh, wow, the way we've been doing things has been pretty terrible and it puts us at a giant disadvantage. It's a completely different thing to actually do something about it and change it.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.